especially both of those things combined, are going to take us to the next 2 to 3 million a year in revenue.
Yeah, I think it's the Forrest Gump or the Henry Ford movement right now.
If you literally connect where you're at now to where you want to go and you put down those tracks, as long as you actually get in the train and the train is moving forward, like, you're guaranteed to get your...
The way that process is winning right now, I think it's more like a Henry Ford year for me.
Something stopped along the way, and I wonder, like, was that their destination or not? And I think that happens to us in business, whereas if you put down train tracks...
Just stand up the project that you want from the beginning.
Ironically enough, this goes to show you where, like, the Forrest Gump thing comes into play. My, like, North Star is... when all my kids are grown and gone, will they choose to come home for Christmas?
Everything in between, like, who's going to teach me the most? How am I going to get there quicker? How can I, like, afford to not do the work, but pay someone who has already done it to give it to me?
Curious what you would consider, like, your biggest win of 2025.
And I can't blame anybody except myself.
Franchise model is a good example of that. You haven't gone into business before, we can go buy a franchise, we can buy a blueprint that we know is going to work, and that's going to allow us to get started faster. That's the benefit of adoption.
New SOPs and new types of playbooks, stuff that I haven't done before in my life.
Okay, I see this thing over here. How can I adapt that? And when I adapt it, does it actually solve the problem that I have or the opportunity that I'm trying to create? Okay, great. Now I can adapt.
And I think my failure for the year was not being a better passenger.
Best investment of the year.
Investment in self at that one unique experience was probably my best investment for the year.
If I get a bunch of helpers, now I'm just a manager. Now I have to be what you're talking about. I have to be the driver on everything, and I have to be in the loop on everything and approve everything. And
we're never going to have friends like this again. And I think that's a part that people miss.
But the difference of having a couple A players is critical.
The amount of money being dropped into World Cup is insane.
It's only getting more and more clear because you get into these one-on-one conversations. It's what engagement is all about. It's why we engage.
What we do is also providing eyeballs on sustainability, stewardship, being a responsible human, giving back to the community, and fighting a future.
You're struggling with how to, like, do outreach on social. You're like, dude, I eat, sleep, breathe that. Like, let me just show you.
I'm trying to figure out how to get it out of my head, but I can't. So I know it's the right word. It's passenger.
We got two. Biggest waste of time, or what you're most excited about looking forward to. And we can do both, but we can do them in either order, but you pick what's next.
This is going to go deep, bro. We're going to go into some process, some methodology here. I don't want people to, like, I don't want their phone to blow up when they're listening to this thing. All right. So where are we going today? You've got a lot swimming inside that brain. Spew it out.
Yeah. I mean, well, exactly where we are at. I mean, it is kind of funny, you know, the context, you know, new year, new you, new corner, new you, new whatever. But, you know, we are at this interesting time, and I know we talked about it last week. We dropped that kind of bonus episode going into the year, but I wanted to take some time. I'm curious because we've had a lot of these conversations. I mean, wind the clock back 10, 11 months. I forget exactly what month, but it was early part of the year when we did that mastermind at Jeremy, my business partner's, his property, and we had an amazing time kind of casting vision for the year. And a lot's happened over the last 10, 11 months. So I've got some questions that I want to ask you, and I'm happy to share too. And, you know, this is not prepared. So, like, if you've got some additional kind of year in review questions that piggyback off of what I share, then great. But I've got about 5 questions, just looking at things of, you know, that year in review, lessons, heartbreak, tragedy, victory, all of those things. So are you ready to open the kimono?
The kimono is there for special medicine. We can find the reasons. But, like, is this what you do every year? I mean, you always have, like, the same 5 questions, or always a year in review?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like,
you just don't jump into the new year with a big like promise to yourself that you're going to break in 2 weeks.
Oh no, I did that long enough. I know the plan's gonna deviate, but you know what? It's interesting. A mentor of mine shared this idea of train tracks, where going into the new year, I felt like I was always more like an adventurer. I've got, you know, these big promises, these hopes that I want to set for the new year, and I would take time to reflect, which is some of what we're going to do today. Really, like, locking in okay, if I had any failures, what did I actually learn? So I don't repeat that because, as we know, lessons will be repeated until learned. So I'm like, okay, what do I need to lock in? And then what are the wins? So I love this time of year for that. But this mentor shared the idea of train tracks with me because, like, if you're going to go from LA to New York, there's a lot of different ways to get there. Heck, I watched a guy on Instagram who skateboarded all the way from LA to New York. It was pretty epic. Cool social media. I did, like, amassing this big following. And you see a lot of people who do that. They'll run. You could drive. But if you do that, like, there's a whole bunch of different paths that you could get there. And it's the same thing in our business. So we set this goal, but then we might be in Albuquerque, and then we're like, oh my gosh, there's the burlesque show in Albuquerque. Like, I'm going to stop off here. And then you get distracted, or, you go off a different way, or, I always wonder, the pioneers.
It sounds like wanderlust.
Wanderlust. Yeah. Live, laugh, love, man.
Yeah. So you're saying tracks.
I always wonder, like, when you think about our ancestors, the folks that settled this land in the Americas, and they started exploring from east to west. I'm like, what made someone decide to stop in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Albuquerque, or Cheyenne, Wyoming? And there's nothing wrong with any of those places, but something stopped along the way. And I wonder, like, was that their destination or not? And I think that happens to us in business. Whereas if you put down train tracks at the beginning of the year, you're like, if you literally connect where you're at now to where you want to go, and you put down those tracks, as long as you actually get in the train and the train is moving forward, like, you're guaranteed to get to your destination. So I look at planning more like that now, as opposed to this wanderlusty.
So you're saying you could be Forrest Gump or Henry Ford?
100%. Yeah. So, which I think there are times and places to have fun and live the Forrest Gump wanderlust lifestyle. But in our businesses, that's usually not the place. I would much rather design the kind of adventurous life that I want to live, to where I can be spontaneous within those constraints. But then the business needs to serve the purpose of, making the cash register ring, funding the lifestyle, serving me in my life, so I'm not a slave to it.
Agreed.
How about you?
I agree with you 100%. I think I would be more of a Forrest Gump style.
You are.
I like running.
That's where
I want to run, and I want people behind me cheering me on.
Yeah.
And then I just want it to go like death quiet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
So you have, like, your professional life and you have your personal life. And I think there's a choice that people make a lot of times is like, I want to be a celebrity. I want to be on TV. I want to do cooking shows. But they don't know what comes with that because they didn't think it all the way through, and they didn't set the tracks. They just took what got sent. And you can open the email and react, or you can wait for an email and then execute. I think it's a different strategy when we're getting to, like, business and personal. But yeah, I'm 100%. You think, are you more of a Forrest Gump, or are you a Henry Ford at the beginning, at this time of year? And I don't know. I think next year, the way that process is winning right now, I think it's more like a Henry Ford year for me, because there is just so much process. We're getting so dialed in on, like, new SOPs and new types of playbooks, stuff that I haven't done before in my life. Right. Yeah. So, I don't know if that's the geeky part of my excitement is, really starting to dive in, but I don't know. I think, I think it's the Forrest Gump or the Henry Ford movement right now.
I love it. Well, with that, then I've got some questions for you. Yeah. Like I said, you said the kimono is always open. I don't know if we should give fair warning to the folks listening in or watching. Like, this is, you're going to get the raw and the real here. So hopefully you're prepared. And if not, maybe you just got to go to the next episode. But
you're going to the dentist or the orthodontist today.
Maybe both at the same time.
You're crooked. We're going to have to put braces on you for life.
Yeah. So let's start with a fun one. And if you'd like, I can answer this first, or you can go. But I want to start with the fun one. Kind of sometimes it's an easy one, sometimes it's not. But we're gonna start on the positive side of things. Curious what you would consider like your biggest win of 2025? I'm sure there's been lots of wins and lessons along the way. Like, I know what it is for me, and it's something probably that I didn't even, until I asked myself that question, I probably wouldn't have put it at the top of the list. Like, it wasn't the thing at the forefront of my mind, but then I look back at the entire year and I'm like, oh yeah, that was definitely the biggest win for the year. So I'm curious what that is for you, or what comes up.
It's a great question. I would say for me, and again, I'm Forrest Gumpish right now because I just like taking what's thrown at me, and I can go for a run. Like, it's fine. Yeah. But if I were to look at like this last year, hearing your position, I spent $200,000 in a way that I never spent $200,000 my entire life, and I have a better context if I would spend that money the same or not. And that's an interesting win because I could have done none of it. I could have never spent that $200,000 on that.
What'd you spend it on?
I spent it on coaching, masterminds, everything in between, like who's going to teach me the most? How am I going to get there quicker? How can I like afford to not do the work, but pay someone who has already done it to give it to me, like to give me the playbook, like that. And then to see who of those individuals sold me really well on chat or sold me really well on the phone. And then I give them money and then I see how they execute. That was the education and the lesson, right? It was deciding where you're going to buy the new fancy whatever, and then how are you going to implement it, or how are they going to deliver on their promise? And that's the funny thing. Like any of them who I hired in this last year or the last 5 years, you're going to know clearly how I feel about our relationship, because I do not let you not know. Like I'm clear about like feedback, right? Unless it's so bad you get zero feedback and then you don't ever get a phone call again. But that's a side between. But this year, spending that money has taught me what and how people can sell themselves and then follow through. And it was a $200,000 lesson in following through. And I can't blame anybody except myself.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm hearing a couple things. One, you invested $200K into yourself. Like, that was, have you ever done that before? I know you've invested in programs in yourself, and I mean, this is like apps and software and and coaches and masterminds and and documents and cheat codes and stuff like that. Yeah. Never, in the last, like, I don't know, 2 years, last 2 years, this is really kind of, unfolded, but this year was a true lesson. Yeah. No, I dig
No,
it.
I mean, I kind of been in and out, but no, to answer your question, no.
Not at that
relatively
level.
New.
Yeah,
no,
not at that
like
level
for
with
a decade.
that intention and no, I dig it. So investing big in yourself, $200K into yourself, and the one, I think that does a couple things. One, it shows. I think it's Peter Drucker that said, "Show me your calendar and your bank account, and I'll show you what your priorities are." So obviously, you're like, "Hey, if I'm worth it," same reason why you might not be into fancy things, but if you're wearing a Rolex, it kind of gives you that sense of like, okay, like I might be worth this. Now, we're all infinitely valuable in God's eyes and to each other, but it's just that kind of physical thing. So I think there's that part, and then the other piece of not just buying the thing that you're buying, but then using that opportunity to see into other businesses, like how do they operate? What's their process? What's their system? Is there anything that I can actually model from the way that they're doing things, not just what they're doing? I'm always studying that. Like, I think that like a lot of times I get more from that than the actual thing that I purchased myself. And I mean, that can come down to a physical product. Look at, I was talking with a client about this the other day, a brand that we really admire and are looking to kind of emulate for this particular client, AG1 Athletic Greens, and the other one was called.
They were on the ghosted list.
They were on the ghosted list, by the way. They write. I think it was. Now I'm totally blank. Meat snacks. They're like a branded jerky brand, really cool. Do cool stuff with email. And we're just looking at that like, oh, like they've they've done if you just watch how they operate. Now, hopefully we should reach out to them next and see if they end up on the ghost board or not. But no, that's cool, man. For me, and again, it was kind of surprising to me when I asked myself this question and this answer came up. But for me, it was actually moving literally into this house in this community. We lived on the other side of town, and had known of this community. It was one of the first subdivisions in our city, and it's older homes. It wouldn't have necessarily been like from the curb appeal standpoint the first place that we would have moved into, but the kids, the pool, the just culture in this community is like known across all like Middle Tennessee in terms of there are families that could afford 5-10 times the house that moved to this community just for that. Like when Tennessee is playing Alabama on the third Saturday in October, like our cul-de-sac fills up. We pull the TV out outside. The kids are all running around with like sparklers and stuff, and we're doing a fish fry outside. And it's just like one of the big reasons why we moved from West Coast to Middle Tennessee is like we wanted to live on a street where the trees touched in the middle and the neighbors smiled when they walked by, and there's no sidewalks and people are walking their dogs and you stop to have conversation. And so like, even though I had to get, like, I literally gave up my studio. I'm in like an open loft area now. We had like a newer, nicer house that we lived in before, but like was such the right move, especially for the season that I'm at with my kids and them growing up. I was like, oh, this was the biggest win for sure, because I see the connections that they're making, the connections I'm making. It's like just the thing that we want, which is fun. Ironically enough, this goes to show you where like the Forrest Gump thing comes into play. My like North Star is when all my kids are grown and gone, will they choose to come home for Christmas? Like every decision I make is around that thing. Like, do I create a home that they want to come home to? And like moving here, I was like, oh, no wonder like we moved here. I wasn't doing that intentionally, but I had set that as my North Star. And so obviously when the decision came, it's like, yeah, I hate moving. And there's some quirky things when you get into an old house, but that's the right move.
What I'm hearing is that, and I live so far in the distance on things. It's, why are you an empty nester? It's just since your kids left. If you live in the right community, if you pick the right community, you would never feel like an empty nester, even though your kids are gone. Empty nesting sounds like a sad place when you like, they were everything to me and now they went to college and we don't have any friends because we just lived in a box in a bad community. And now you're saying, no, there's actually cool communities out there. Make that part of your shop buyer process.
Yep.
And then when you get it, it's a big win. Like our street right now, I literally just told the guy, we're going to buy the house next door to us, right? And I just totally told, I was like, hey, honey, my wife, what do you think? And she's like, I just don't think this is our forever street. And that you don't say that when you're in a community. You're like, well, what about the Joneses? And what about the Ryans over there? Man, these guys are fun. We're never going to have friends like this again. And I think that's a part that people miss right now in communities because everyone's just like so, secluded.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, like the neighborhood we came from, I knew like two of my neighbors' names, and it wasn't for like, we were out and about and we would see each other at the pool and but it's like, it was different. And I remember we were at a get together before the kids started the school year and meeting some new families that are coming to the school. And they had one daughter and they lived kind of across the street and up the hill in this kind of a little more ritzier neighborhood, like arguably nicer, newer houses, bigger lots, those kind of things. And we're like, oh yeah, here's where we live. She's like, oh my gosh, like our daughter's been trying to convince us to move there forever. Like this kid is growing up in status and has all the luxury and everything. It's like, no, I want to be there. And so, it's funny. You talk about like the empty nester thing and wanting to be in the right community. And for me, that being my North Star of like, okay, when I'm older and grayer and the kids have gone, do they want to choose to come back?
They're not going to come back. They're not going to come back to an empty nest.
No, come back to a warm house.
So I think, like you're saying, like people in your community have decided they could afford something 5 times more and move somewhere else for a nicer house, but they'd rather live in that community and pay, into something more manageable or like whatever. It's just they'd rather spend less money to be in a better place, where some people are like, I would pay 20% more to live in that community.
100%. And like it has, I mean, because that it actually is very competitive to get in, which is like ironic. So it's like the fact that we were able to even kind of like get into this house was pretty incredible. Things have mellowed out a little bit more recently, but certainly the last 4 or 5 years been almost, you had to know somebody to get in here. So
Forrest Gump with me for a minute. How does this translate to hospitality? Like, if you were to see a hotel group with the same sensory of community versus a hotel group without, it's just a place to sleep versus a place to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
it's like
it's
the same kind of thing. It's if you were to translate the hospitality, like, can you create the restaurant, the hotel that people choose to come back to after they leave? It's the same idea. And for me, that thing with my kids is not necessarily about the physical structure of the home. That's not what I mean when I say that. I mean the experience. And part of us moving to this is like, I know it's going to be easier to create those memories because of how the people are around us. But so much of it has to do with how I treat my kids, how I engage with my wife in front of them. Like the experiences that we create. A mentor of mine told me, it's like, Gabriel, like the key, because he'd raised successful humans and they'd grown and gone. He's like, make remarkable moments and tell stories about them often. And they don't have to be these big, lavish things. Like those remarkable moments can be, hey, like, remember that time when, we went to Dairy Queen at midnight and got blizzards and we ran into that homeless guy and he was kind of crazy, but we had that conversation with him. And you just tell those stories, right? And we can do the same thing in our businesses, in hospitality. Like we can create that space. So it's like create memorable moments and tell stories about them often. And one of the best ways to do that is through social engagement, email, while they're with us, when they're gone. Like, so this is one of those things, like one thing, it translates in all areas of life.
It does. I mean, we always talk about like what this show is all about, our ghosted guests and hospitality. And like that neighborhood has a sense of engagement, right? It's full. It's, they understand who you are. They wave. It's a warm wave, not like a sterile, personality wave, and there's a feel behind it. And I think that's when you go check into a hotel that remembers your name or has the right thing at your bedside. That's the same thing that you feel when you're coming home and you're walking back into a community.
Yeah.
So I think, again, like, hey, have you seen my house? It's on Redfin. Hey, have you seen my house? It's on Zillow. Go check it out. Like, that's so weird and cold. Like, it's like a website for your home. It's like, no, you have to come see the neighborhood. Like, we shook your hand when the first time you like waved at us, we responded to you. Like it's all of that kind of like deeper connection that I think is so important, and we're kind of forgetting what that's like right now, especially in the digital storefront. I think a lot of people are missing that. So that's a good lesson and a good win,
Totally.
What else you got? You had 5 questions.
All right, if we flip it upside down, because I say, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And the learning, at least for me, usually comes on the other side of a colossal screw up, mistake, failure, whatever you want to call it. So biggest F up of the year, biggest failure point, and hopefully, like, what did you learn from it, kind of a thing. For me, I can start on that and just share, like, we came into the year with, I think, some really kind of grand ideas of like how we wanted to grow the business, and saw a model of how another business kind of similar to ours was doing things. And we're like, oh, sweet. Like, they've got a system that works. We're just going to like do their thing. And we did that for about like 6 months. And the failure part is that it actually worked. Like it worked. So it worked, and we were able to like bring on new clients, and we were kind of running their model. But it, like, I woke up in May and was like, this is not the business that we wanted to design. Like, we're building somebody else's business, and we took all of it because it got to the end result of more clients, more cash. But like, this is not sustainable. And that started bleeding into even some of the things you're talking about, where you've noticed like other people doing like follow up, and what's it like when you buy a product or service, or you message AG1 and they ghost you, and all of a sudden that starts to taint that experience. I know for us, it started tainting some of that experience too, because of like how we were approaching things. So the failure point was really in going, oh, I can like take this thing off the shelf that someone else designed with all of their nuance and desires and constraints, but really I picked it up just because, oh, like I saw that it was working, I knew it could work for us, but I didn't adapt it at all. So I was kind of like outsourcing the thinking, brought it in, again, it worked. And the lesson in that was, when I woke up in May and realized that it happened, it was like, okay, like we've got to pivot, got to go back to the drawing board to, why did we start this business in the first place? What's the kind of business that I want to own, that I want to work in, where, Simon Sinek talks about the infinite game. What's the game that I could see myself playing forever just because I freaking love it? And so the back half of the year looked much different, but it was a painful 6 months, because I would have almost rather it not have worked, because I feel like we would have gone through that faster. And then also like too, sometimes it's harder to turn something off or slow something down when it's, quote unquote working, but in the long haul, it wasn't working because it wasn't aligned with North Star vision and what we were wanting to create. It wasn't sustainable. We were picking up some things that weren't in our wheelhouse just because they were part of the model, but they weren't and we were kind of abandoning some of our secret sauce. So that was probably the biggest, again, lesson. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. Biggest lesson of the year for me.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, it just makes me think about, a house's foundation. It's good sometimes if you can stand up a project on a foundation. The house doesn't look anything like what's underneath the ground, right? It's just that it's just stood up on the wrong foundation. And if you don't have the foundation you want, then you're only going to be growing on top of something else that you don't want to have. And you're eventually going to have to replace it, paint it, reshape it. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just, eventually it's going to be more work down the road. I guess the point of my thought is that just stand up the project that you want from the beginning.
Totally. Yeah.
And stick to it.
Like that starts with like, okay, what's the lifestyle that you want as an entrepreneur? What's the business that supports that? And then for me, it was getting really clear on like what was needed. Like, let's not include anything that's not needed. Let's do our thing. And it's not to say that we can't learn from and model, because we should absolutely. The lesson is not like, oh, don't go, buy somebody else's thing or learn from their strategy, but figuring out how you actually adapt it and knowing when to adopt versus adapt, I think, is really important. Earlier in business, it would be important to adopt, I think. But when you're as deep in as you are or I am, adopting can be really detrimental, because we already have so much of that foundation laid. And when you try to like put something up new, like this doesn't fit. That's when it should be more adapt. So it's adopting. We're going to take someone's thing as is, and that can. Franchise model is a good example of that. You haven't gone into business before. We can go buy a franchise. We can buy a blueprint that we know is going to work, and that's going to allow us to get started faster. That's the benefit of adoption. Adapting, is when we can go, okay, like I already have this thing that's working. One, I gotta get really clear on what needs to be improved or fixed? What problems do I have? What opportunities am I missing? Okay, I see this thing over here. How can I adapt that? And when I adapt it, does it actually solve the problem that I have or the opportunity that I'm trying to create? Okay, great. Now I can adapt. So learning when to adopt versus adapt, I think, was the lesson.
I like it. I'm trying
How about
to
you?
put.
How about you?
I'm trying to put. This is going to go deep, bro. We're going
to
go into some process, some methodology here. I don't want people to I don't want their phone to blow up when they're listening to this thing. All right, so I feel like my failure for the year and the contemplation is based on when I review and think and kind of get into that reflection mode and planning mode that we're doing, preloaded year, whatever. I start to think about this word and trying to figure out how to get it out of my head, but I can't. So I know it's the right word. It's passenger. And I think my failure for the year was not being a better passenger. And once I lock onto something, I want to drill it into my soul, right? And what I feel is that we spend our entire life and time jumping into the car, missing potholes, speeding, braking, zip around, come on, slow, honk, some asshole in the front's going too slow, whatever. We're driving, right? We're always reacting. And sometimes you're I'm just a chill driver. Never had any accident, no speeding tickets. Some person's completely reckless, right?
Yeah.
And so the whole world relates to this type of theory. And then there's the person who sits in the passenger seat and tells the driver how to drive, right? So I've always felt I'm always the host provider. I'm always the one who has to plan the party or to show up and bring the food to master. We always do this stuff, right? And versus just coming in as a passenger, right? And there is the fun and the excitement of the drive and the reaction and the knee jerks and the oohs and the ahs and yum yums, all those things, right? But you still are going to get to the same place by just being the guy in the Uber who checks his phone, who guides and visualizes from 5,000 feet versus 1 foot, and not touching what the tires are doing on the road. But you're in the car, going the same place.
Yep.
And I feel not being as good as a passenger is my failure for the year. And that's where I'm focused for this next year, is to be the passenger who never drives anymore, but basically steps in the back of the Uber and lets the car take you where you want to go. So it's the passenger method. How can you let that be in your business, in your personal life, and make it the most enriching for those around you? So as a passenger, you're thinking about how to make everybody's life better, but you have a better driving experience.
And you're setting the destination. You're like, hey, here's where we want to go. You got it, driver? Which is funny because literally right before we hit record, we were talking about this, right? About your other podcast, which we can drop some links to that maybe in the description for Wayfinder. And we were talking some logistical stuff, and what's interesting is, and the reason why I asked you the questions that I asked you is because I know that you have such high taste. And Ira Glass talks this idea about the problem with having taste is as a creative, as an artist, whether you're a chef, a storyteller, a winemaker, doesn't matter, any kind of creative, you've got taste. So you go into something. And usually your expectation and then reality, there's this gap that most people don't see. I was a photographer for a long time, had a photography business, and would say that most people know the difference between bad photography and good photography. They don't know the difference between good photography and great. But I could see that gap, right? So we're having this conversation about the podcast stuff.
I see this gap all the time.
You see all the time. I know you do.
Oh my God!
Good editing and this is what you're talking
video
about.
Editing, bro, what were you smoking when you pulled your camera out? How could you think this is a good shot? No way.
They didn't see it.
They don't see what you see.
And that's where I thought, I think this is huge for you. Cause like I can attest, like having, known you now for a little over a year and the work that we've done together and getting to hang out, like that's one of your strengths is being able to see the detail and like get into the weeds on it. And so that's why I asked you, I was like, hey, do you want to, like, we can help support you in this area, but then like you probably want final say into all these things in. And you were like, no, man, like I want to get out of the way. Like just let's publish it. We can run faster that way. So I just want to affirm it. Like, obviously you're mentioning this as like one of the biggest lessons, and you literally modeled it to me 30 minutes ago before this call that like, okay, I'm going to trust the process. I'm still going to guide the direction of where we're going with this new podcast, but I'm going to sit in the passenger seat, and not from like a passive way, but like I'm going to set the direction.
That's
I love
OG.
that.
That's OG shit, bro. Like the people who sit in the passenger seat, they know the destination. It's just the characters on the ride that are seasonal.
And those are always the gangsters too.
Yeah.
They're the ones in the back of the Maybach. Like,
bro, I don't care. You're coming and going. Like I'm still going. Like,
yep.
You can't affect my journey. It's just, I don't know. I think that I wasn't what I wanted to be. And that's what I learned. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's the failure of the lesson, right? So I'm even going to go, you'll see. I'm going to go drastic. The whole world will see.
Okay.
The passenger.
All right.
The passenger method is coming.
Let's see it. I love it because again, I think there can be such a it can tend to be a negative connotation with that, especially when you think of like entrepreneurship or creative, like, oh, you're being such a passenger. But it's like, no, I think I love the spin that you're putting on that, because I think it's true. It's why we trust some people to be in certain spots, and then like again, everything you mentioned. So
and you can use it as a filter for business too. Like, I'm only going to invest or spend my time on projects that are passenger projects. Yeah. What does that mean? That I'm able to direct from a field afar. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't have to be 100% involved in every single decision. That's how scaling can happen, So it's really like, I think there's a real drill here with, understanding that process, but then also just picking the projects that you think you can actually benefit, and they can benefit from your input, right? Yeah. And look at it, an Uber, your input is money and a destination, right?
Yeah.
The output is you go where you want to go. It's a very simple transaction. So if you look at all your business deals that we do, like, how can we keep it as simple as such,
Yeah.
Another failure, I choose crazy shit, like we all do, versus just building that simple foundation and just running with it, and then being able to decide, I'm going to go build something else. Versus tearing the house down again and doing it like, oh, right. You know what I mean? Like, it's how we think about the world and how that works.
I dig it. So if we go back to the positive side of things, then best investment of the year. And it could be like a literal investment. It could be, maybe one of the investments you made in yourself, something else. Curious, best investment of the year.
I would have to say the best investment of this year was jumping into a Dan Martell in-person experience. I would say the quality of the people, the quality of the education, and the overall retention. Like, it felt like if I could do that 100 days a year, I have no idea where my mind would be. Like, that was the intensity level of basically consumption, retention, inspiration. And it was a mastermind, which was called Empire Builder. And Empire Builder basically is like, it's the inner workings of how you take your concept ideation that's already in a 7-figure state, and how do you take it to like an 8-figure state. And that was Empire Builder in 3 days, and everybody's there absorbing, et cetera. And I think per dollar, investment in self at that one unique experience was probably my best investment for the year.
Yep. Love that. So yeah, the in-person experience, the mastermind at scale. Mine's pretty similar. Mine's like kind of a tie. I couldn't pick, so I'll share both. One of mine was a coaching program / mastermind. Actually, Dan's coach, Taki. In fact, after the big aha moment, or first part of the year, realizing, okay, we need to go back to the drawing board, have been really good at building marketing and acquisition systems for other companies, had always ignored our own. Classic cobbler's son has no shoes mentality. So took that as an opportunity of, okay, like who's the best in the world at this, of going from kind of what we were doing as an agency brand, shifting to this kind of like tech-enabled consulting coaching model. And it was Taki. When we signed up for his mastermind program, my head of marketing, tech, and ops was like, Gabriel, he's like, I've been here a couple of years now. You know Shar. He's like, this is the best decision that we've made since I've been on the team. Both companies, blend mode, growth map, like this is by far and away the best. I was like, okay, cool. This is like affirming. And the reason why, again, back to the adopt versus adapt, I went, okay, like if I need to adapt, one, I do need some outside input. I need a couple of different mentors. And I've talked about this for a while before, where I think it's helpful for us to all have different mentors. I have one where I call like the horizon mentor. That's the one who is like way out there, is the kind of talkie, is the Dan Martell, or the folks that they've traveled the whole road. They're like at the summit and they can help you get there. Then you need the folks that are the peer mentors that you can walk that with, or maybe you're just a little bit ahead of you. And then you have the folks that you're coaching and mentoring up to. I think having all three is very important, because at least I learn so much better when I have to go teach. If I only have that mentor that's out in the distance, it's hard for me to get it really like practical in the day to day. So having that mix, and this group brought all three of those and really checked all the boxes in terms of like, great, he's not prescribing a one size fits all solution for my problem, which is really designing the business that suits the lifestyle and delivers amazing results for clients, and is a business that I am excited to own and love operating and working within. So that was one of them. And then the other one was Anthony. So it was a person. You find the right kind of people and bringing them into the mix. And I'll give a big shout out to Anthony. I'd worked with Anthony on some other projects before, in some software companies, and he was basically becoming a free agent, which I was like, oh, bro. And he came to the mastermind with us in the beginning of the year. And that was more just kind of a like, hey, we should reconnect. And he hadn't become a free agent yet. And then he ended up becoming a free agent later in the year. And I was like, dude, we got to do some projects together. And we did. And having, like, when you're working with A players, having the right people in the, like, there's such a exponential difference between an A player and a B player. Even like, and B players are great. Like, you can run an amazing business with B and C players. You can. But the difference of having a couple of A players is critical, because I'm like, oh, this is not what I realize I don't need. Here's what I realize I don't need. I don't need a bunch more helpers. Very easy to go find helpers, whether it's VAs, AI agents, assistants, like very easy.
So I don't need more helpers. You're a solo Santa.
Solo Santa. I need leaders, and I only need a couple.
So
but I'm like, if I find the leader, like they can bring the helpers or get the helpers like that. That's because then otherwise, if I get a bunch of helpers, now I'm just a manager. Now I have to be what you're talking about. I have to be the driver on everything, and I have to be in the loop on everything and approve everything and creating the processes and all this. And I'm like, that's not what I want. But you find someone like an Anthony. So that coaching program and one killer A player that I know, like especially both of those things combined, are going to take us to the next 2 to 3 million a year in revenue.
I like that.
So yeah,
nothing wrong with revenue.
That's right. I'm here for it. Yeah. How about you? You said best investment. Okay. Dealer's choice on this one, you being the dealer. We got two. Biggest waste of time or what you're most excited about looking forward to. And we can do both, but we could do them in either order, but you pick what's next. So biggest waste of time from this year or what you're most excited about going into the new year.
Biggest waste of time. What am I excited about? Excited. Keep it up. So going into 2026, we have a few different really cool projects happening. One, and we just put out a big reflection letter, to LOI, our database, and kind of says, hey, here's where I've been, here's where we're going. We are just super grateful for your time and energy and being a trustworthy partner to us and vice versa. And how lucky we are to have like such a great community around us. And then what I say is, we've got a whole series of things coming up around World Cup, which is very exciting because the country is going to be on soccer fire, football fire for 26. Like summer is just going to be bananas. And the amount of like investment that's going into each of these cities for 7 days of world-class programming and to be part of that. So that's really exciting.
That's going to be epic. Yeah.
And so we're cornered.
My 10-year-old pumped for World Cup this year.
So many people.
She's just like, we're going to watch every game. I'm like, let's do it. Let's do it.
And it's the amount of money being dropped into World Cup is insane. So there's that. People want to party like it's 1999. Then we've got some really cool programming happening around one of our certified sustainable gatherings called Nourish. It's a project we do with one hotel, always around Formula One, and we're expanding that. Our partnership with the V Foundation is really healthy, and it's great to be supporting such a great cause and movement, fighting the victory against cancer, and having, this last year, we made an endowment into a program called Build On. So the charity that I started when I turned 40, Piggy Bank, is now in about 15 communities in Africa, helping them with business plans for small farmers who want to grow food. So we are a part of some curriculum there, which is really cool. So it's good to see where that's going. But just what we do is also providing eyeballs on sustainability, stewardship, being a responsible human, giving back to the community, and fighting a future, a war against cancer. Like I feel good and excited about going to bed and about eating and drinking in 26 because there's going to be a lot of it. And then, we've got some really cool partnerships. Just business-wise isn't a really fun, cool place. Things that we're doing with Food and Wines from Spain, with our Spanish regions, Roberto Duero and Rueda. Those are great. I mean, it's just the whole work package has been a pretty exciting place to be in. If you like to work. If you don't like to work, then find someone to drive you, So I'm excited about how can I be a better passenger for all of that opportunity.
Epic.
And coach people from afar. And that's, I think the last part of this was the mastermind, very excited about what we're doing with Next 10. Next 10 is a mastermind. We've got these 2 podcasts that you and I are doing. Is very exciting. Content is how to capture all this as content is exciting, but we've got Next 10 mastermind and really figuring out like how we help people scale and grow their business and to avoid the peaks and valleys of unpredictable income. How do you just get like a predictable income stream and get closer and put those tracks down to financial freedom? Like that's what we want to help people do with the mastermind. So that's exciting. And then of course, talking to you every week is one of my favorite and most exciting things to do. And we get to do it 52 times this year. So yeah.
We do. Yeah. Heck yeah. No, this has been fun. Like I'm super grateful. Dude, I have wanted to start a podcast for probably 10 years. I can actually, like, I remember calling in one of my favorite podcasts, like before, I think you remember the podcast Serial with, it was about like that murderer, Adnan Syed, that he's like, was he unlawfully imprisoned? And I feel like that podcast was the one that kind of brought podcasting onto the scene, because it was the first time that something like that went viral to where like non-nerds started listening to podcasts. And I'd been listening to podcasts for like 4 or 5 years, but like I've wanted to start a podcast for so long. So like I'm just grateful that we get to do this and really enjoy it. And I'm excited for the conversations we're going to have next year. Excited to see where Next 10 goes, what takes shape with Accelerator. Because to me, and like we're in these conversations, like it's only getting more and more clear, because you get into these one-on-one conversations. It's what engagement is all about. It's why we engage. Like you get to hear what people are excited about, what they're dealing with, what are their wins and lessons, like where do they need help? And it's like, oh, like you're struggling with how to like do outreach on social. You're like, dude, I eat, sleep, breathe that. Like, let me just show you. Where it's like, this doesn't have to be this hidden thing. There's so many people are just kind of like walking around, like dealing with these problems or looking in weird places, like looking in the wrong spot, looking to some PR person to help them solve a problem that a PR person can't solve. So like, I am also very excited for that stuff. That's gonna be killer. Yeah. I think for me,
self multiplier.
Self multiplier. Heck yes. How do you clone yourself so you can be omnipresent, scale your brand, scale your presence, your engagement? Excited to dive into that.
We should do an episode, a podcast about self multiplier.
Yeah. We are definitely doing the self multiplier. Just so y'all know, make sure you hit subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're watching, listening, because that so you don't miss that one.
All right, so I'm gonna execute this. I can't do biggest waste of time. What was that?
That's good.
That was the other one. But I'll do one. Like one word.
Oh, one word.
What is your
for
word
this last year or for next year or both?
For this last year.
Yeah. So the word would be compass.
And why?
Yeah, I feel like for a long time I would have said that I know what I'm creating and where I'm going and how that helps all the people in my life, my clients, my family, my partners, and what it takes to get there. But this is the first year where I've actually felt that, 44 years in, finally like, oh, this is what, I think people say, when you talk about relationship, oh, like, how do you know this person is the one? And then what's everyone's response is always like, oh, you'll know. When you know, you'll know. And it's like so hard to quantify. And when you're on the other side of that and you haven't had that experience, it seems either cliche or like it couldn't be true, or like if that's the case, sometimes it can feel devastating because you're like, well, I've never felt that. So shoot, like, what am I doing wrong? And I feel that way about just the connecting, the strategy to the schedule, the vision to the calendar, the like, what does actually matter and what doesn't, in a way that it never has clicked for me before. And so this idea of like, great, like I've got the compass, the true north, and I know it's pointing to true north, feels really good because like we talked about this idea of, Henry Ford, Forrest Gump. You might be a little more of a Forrest Gump and liking to kind of, really adventure and kind of explore and let serendipity happen. I also have that adventurous spirit, but I tend to err more on the side of the Henry Ford, the practical, like I want to move the tracks forward. So at least having some sort of direction is really like important to me. So having that to where it's like, oh, now I've got directional certainty like never before. And so how do I give this to as many people as possible? Because this is like unreal. And like, we've both done some killer things. I helped build a $25 million agency and spun up new companies that did 140K MRR within a couple of months, have traveled the world, have shot, photographed some of the most incredible clients from Russia, Moscow to Mexico, across the world. Like, I've done all these really cool things, but none of it, like, and it's all been like, all of that was required to get to this point of like, oh, this is what absolute directional certainty looks like, to have this kind of a compass. I want to give this to as many people as I can. Like, how do I give this to you? So that's the word, compass.
Compass. I like compass.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like something you want to tell a doctor you have.
Dude, I was like, I got this compass. I don't know, man. Can you check out my... Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, the word, it's back to like, it's passenger, because it pulls in everything that I'm thinking about. It makes me reflect of like where I've been, what the journey has been, and where the journey is going to go. And I either choose one or the other. Am I going to be the person who gets in the back of the car by design and get there and be able to do multiple things and have my eyes on the prize? Or am I going to sit there behind the wheel and jockey around every pothole? And the word passenger, I think, is that one word from 2025 that gives me perspective of what happened in my prior life, because I'm also at the age of 50. So if I get to 100, I'm in the midway point.
Yep.
So there's just so much tied to the word passenger. So that's the word.
That's a good
passenger.
word. Passenger.
Multiple syllables.
So is that the word then going into the next year too, or is that just 2025?
No,
and it'll be a new one for 2026.
I don't know. The word for next year is patience, I think.
I've got to develop when you're the passenger.
Yeah, I've got to put passenger into, like application. I have to apply. I have to understand and become master of technique and figure out why. And then patience is going to be required along the way, as we all know.
Yeah, 100%. Love that.
And I think like patience is when you have a system of things that you do every day, if it's not once or twice a day or 3 times a week or 5 times a week, that process is repeatable by someone else who can do it probably better than you, as long as you record it and have patience to record everything you're doing. Because we just don't have patience. We just, I don't have time to duplicate my efforts or to make a loom and make a playbook about this. I'm just too busy. No, have patience with yourself. Do it, because you do it now, it's going to pay off later. So patience. I think I need more of it.
See, that's the beauty of laying down train tracks too, because with train tracks, like, you increase, if you have the certainty that you're going to get to where you want to go. Certainly, we'd all love to get there faster. But I think a lot of times our patience stems from that uncertainty of like, I want to speed up to know if we're going to get there or not, or the way I think we're going to or not. So like, I don't want to wait to figure that out. Right. So I think there are some things that we can do with our environment, with our strategy, to make it easier to be patient. Because like, the higher certainty goes, the easier it is to be patient, right? It's like, okay, like I'm playing the infinite game. Like, we're gonna get there. It's gonna be good. And I think there are ways of doing that, of increasing certainty. One of those ways is with North Star type of clarity, right? Having that. And I can tell you, like, our word for me and my wife, we were talking about this the other day. She actually came up with it, is connection. So taking compass, taking that clarity and going, okay, like, what does that mean now? Like, when we get into the real world, like, where are we connecting, and really like with who, and with what? Like connection into the work, connection with the content, connection with people. How do we
I think
cultivate connection?
Great word.
Everything. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. I mean, let's say you guys came up with that word. Out of all of the couples, married couples or couple couples, you know, in the existence of the world right now, how many do you think are saying that word is their word for next year? You know what I mean?
Like countless. If they're
everybody
like,
wants connection.
If they're not asleep at the wheel, like they want it. So now if we say we want it, again, show me where your bank account and your calendar lies, and I'll show you what your priorities are. Okay, if we say that connection is actually the thing that we want, and that is the priority, okay, great. Let's get in the count. And that's why last Friday we sat down, we had a long lunch date, we looked at our preloaded year of like, okay, great. Like, here's where we're connecting with each other. Here's where we're connecting with our kids, as a family. Here's where I'm connecting with my clients, where I'm connecting with peers. Again, those different levels of mentors, the people that I'm mentoring, the people that are out ahead of me, the people that are my peers. Like, we got to put it in the calendar. We got to invest some dollars into it if it actually is important. And if you're not willing to put your money and your time to it, then maybe it's not the top priority, and maybe there's a different word or a different thing, and that's fine. But that's what it is for us.
I love it. I know if I ask my wife, she's gonna be like, trips.
My word is trips.
More trips. Let's get some trips before I get pregnant.
Sign me up for those. I am here for the trips.
I am for trips. All right. I love it.
The pod.
That's 2025.